All right, guys, thanks everyone for coming and supporting mass adoption. There's a lot of new people here. We don't have enough time. I would have everyone kind of introduce themselves, but we're past that point, so hopefully we can just mingle with everyone. I just want to quickly talk about, we have the Freedom Festival coming up in May. I brought some flyers here tonight. They're on the table. If anyone wants to take them and distribute them in their hometown or at their Starbucks or stick it up in your house as art, whatever you want to do is fine. And we're very lucky tonight to have Reed from the Western Mass Meetup group to present us with Bitcoin security. So I'm going to hand it over to Reed.
Well, thank you, Jeff, for the introduction. As he said, I'm Reed. I run the Western Mass Bitcoin Meetup. And I've been putting together some educational content here and there. And one of the rabbit holes that I went down probably back in like 2021 was, how do you securely hold Bitcoin in self-custody? So after I went down that rabbit hole, as part of that journey, I ended up taking a firearm safety course. Because as we're going to learn in this presentation, taking physical security seriously is part of being responsible with your self-custody. And as I was taking the class, I was like, wow, there's like a lot of really good lessons here that really also apply to Bitcoin. It would be great if we had a Bitcoin safety course. So that's kind of what inspired these slides. And so I hope that you guys are able to take something away from this. At times, we're going to talk about physical attacks. It sort of gets maybe a little bit uncomfortable. But that was sort of the same ethos that we had in the firearm safety course. We watch videos of like 5-year-olds getting caught up in accidents at gun ranges with people who had all the experience in the world. So sometimes it's important to just realize what we're dealing with here so you can help take it seriously going forward. So they say, right, with great power comes great responsibility. And there's a little bit of a story here with the picture that I chose for this slide. This is from actually a 1st century Roman story of the Sword of Damocles. And in this story, a king, King Dionysus, offered all of the luxuries and benefits that come with being king to just one of the regular members of the court. And the guy was like, great, this guy Dionysus, that sounds amazing, right? And so he starts getting fed all this wonderful food and being waited on by all these beautiful women. And then he starts noticing that above the throne is a sword that's hung by a single thread. And he realizes that at any time this sword could come down and kill him. And it doesn't take long for him to say, you know what, this is just not for me. I need to get out of here. And he steps down. And the moral of the story here is that the sword hanging above him was to represent all the threats and dangers that come with being king. It's with the great power, you have many threats. And that's the same with us in Bitcoin. When you're taking self-custody of your Bitcoin, it's something that should be taken seriously. And there are real risks in the real world. We think of this as all just virtual, online, digital stuff. But there's real threats to real people in the real world. So if Bitcoin is responsibility go up technology, let's start learning about what things you can do to take this a little bit, increase your responsibility with taking self-custody seriously. So what threats are you currently secured against, and what are your Bitcoin security protocols? These are questions that hopefully, as you start getting more serious about your Bitcoin holdings, there are questions you'll ask yourself. So let's start up at the top, right? Almost all of us, most likely, acquired our Bitcoin from an exchange. So at some point, your Bitcoin were most likely on an exchange. So let's talk about the threat that is leaving your coins on an exchange. Some people think, maybe you should just leave them there. Regular normies aren't ready for self-custody. It's too much responsibility, right? Individual people, we can all be irresponsible. We can get hacked. We can make mistakes. So Udi thinks, just leave your coins on an exchange. It's too hard. He has no confidence in you. But I would say, how safe are your coins on an exchange anyways? Is it really safer? So I have a list here. I should have mentioned at the beginning, These slides are going to be made available after the fact, and there's lots of links. Okay, and at the end I have a whole slide with like 30 different pages that you can go click on and have this presentation be a real introduction to the rabbit hole. So here I have a list of 55 different hacking events that have taken place since about 2012 of a whole bunch of different exchanges. All in all, $2.4 billion worth of Bitcoin were stolen, and that's in dollars at the time of the attack. So we're talking about astronomical amounts of Bitcoin that have been taken off of exchanges. And this list isn't even up to date. It doesn't even have some of the more modern ones. Fortress Trust just got hacked in September of last year. We also had all those bankruptcies, right? The FTX, BlockFi, Celsius, Prime Trust. None of those are even included. So I would say leaving your coins on an exchange is actually a massive risk. It's a risk that's completely outside of your control. There was also confiscation events. I have a link to one here. BTCE was an exchange that was around in like the 2012, 2013 days. And one day, everyone clicked on the website, and there was an FBI notice. And it said the site's gone. All these normal, innocent people who didn't do anything wrong, all their coins were gone. There was no permission. It was based in Russia. It got taken down. All the coins were confiscated. Nobody got their coins back. And then there's the bigger risk, which is more of a risk like, okay, so Coinbase has never been hacked. So maybe Coinbase is like quote unquote safer than some of these other exchanges, right? We've got all the ETFs are keeping their coins on Coinbase. But then there's always looming in the background. There is precedence for this in the United States. Executive Order 6102, they went around to all the exchanges, to all the custodians of gold, and they took all the gold. Interestingly enough, they never went door to door. They never went around and actually took people's gold. If you had gold in your safe at your house, the government never came and took it. They took the gold that was at the exchange, that was at the custodian. So that's where they're going to, if anything like that ever happened again, that's where they're going to target first. So look, all these threats, there's a very easy mitigation strategy for all of these threats. Get your coins off an exchange. Okay, so you've got your coins off an exchange. Message received, right? Let's put it in a hot wallet on our phone. Step one. Okay, well, it's better than the exchange, but there are still threat vectors for hot wallets. And for anyone who doesn't know, a hot wallet, what I specifically mean is these are wallets that are connected to the internet that have your private keys loaded into the software. Even if they're password protected or have biometrics, your key is still connected to the internet. That's what I mean when I say a hot wallet. So there are some examples. And look, hot wallet's definitely safer than an exchange, in my opinion. However, there are examples, and I tried to pick a couple recent ones. Just this was in 2022, excuse me, or January 2023. Luke Dash Jr., who is a very prominent Bitcoin core developer, had his hot wallet hacked. Someone hacked into his computer, and they compromised the server, and he lost everything. They drained 200 Bitcoin out of his wallet, which is a lot. And there wasn't detailed forensics. We don't know exactly what happened. There's a lot of speculation in what actually went down. But for the most part, everybody agrees that if he had just taken his keys off of the computer, off of an internet-connected device, almost certainly his Bitcoin would have been safe. So, hot wallet attacks. First of all, don't make yourself a target. Luke is a very controversial guy. He finds himself in the middle of a lot of very heated debates. This is maybe not a threat of hot wallets, but a lot of prominent people who have been in the middle of controversies have found themselves in kind of rough situations where maybe they were actually targeted. So, don't make yourself a target, and then get your keys off of internet-connected devices, right? There's a lot of hardware wallets. Not all of them are really expensive, right? Cold card's what, like 150 bucks? There are other options that still get your keys off of the internet for as cheap as like, I don't know, $20, $30. Like this is not a huge hurdle to get your keys off of the internet. All right, message received, right? Now we're off of our hot wallets. So we've got ourselves onto a single sig cold wallet, right? So now cold wallet, what I mean, most people are going to be thinking a hardware wallet. Those are all cold wallets. But it really is just any way where you have your private keys stored on a device that's offline. So physical hardware can be hacked. And one thing I'd like to say, just as we work our way down this ladder, right, of increasing security and decreasing threats, I would say the risks are going down like exponentially. However, all of these things still have risks. And so that's what we're going to talk about. So you can actually, some of these devices can be physically hacked. And maybe you've seen some of these headlines. Like everybody likes to pick on Trezor because a lot of the Trezor devices don't have secure elements, which make them very easy to hack. But I'm wondering how many people actually know what it means to actually hack into one of these devices. It's not like, oh, I just plug it in the USB port of my computer and run some magic script and it's hacked. Like there is more that goes into it than that. And so I have a link here. This is just like a 1-minute video posted by Kraken, but it actually shows you, and I thought it was interesting, what it actually means to hack into a Trezor. So like you can see here, right, if you keep your Trezor in your safe, somebody steals your safe, almost nobody is going to be doing stuff like this to hack into your Trezor, right? They're most likely going to find it. First of all, most of them are probably going to wonder what the hell it is. And then even if they know what it is, they might try a couple easy passwords or pins and brick the device. But if you happen to run into a person who knows what all this is and has all of this equipment all hooked up ready to go, then yeah, this can be a pretty quick process. So as I went down this rabbit hole, I had all these pictures in my head. I hear NVK saying how easy it is to hack these things, and that's all well and good. But I never really knew what he was talking about. So I thought, if nothing else, just showing this quick little video gives you an idea of what it is that they're actually talking about. Part of it is brute force. That's what I think it's doing right here. So it just keeps going through different. There you go. They got the pin 1, 2, 3, 4. Nailed it.
They don't get the passphrase though. The 12-word phrase, you need the passphrase. It's protected because the passphrase is not stored on the device.
If you set a passphrase.
You have to set a passphrase.
If you don't have a secure element, it's definitely recommended, but you don't have to.
You don't have
and a lot of people don't.
But you have to.
And a lot of people don't even recommend it, which is surprising.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean. Another quick set of examples that's interesting. You can have the most secure wallet you could ever imagine, right? You could have your MK4 with 2 secure elements. Nobody's ever going to hack that thing. But if they get your seed phrase, they get the private keys. And one of the things people always say, right? Don't type your seed phrase into an internet-connected device. I would say maybe don't even type it into any device. And one of the things that's interesting is keyloggers, which I'm not exactly sure how rare these things are, but they are definitely out there. And one thing that I thought was interesting was, we keep our homes, we bug our own homes all the time. We put Alexas, we put Siris, we put Google Homes. We carry around these devices in our pockets with microphones that may or may not be listening to us all the time. And I just thought it was interesting when I saw this, that an AI was able to just listen to the sound of the keyboard and with 95% accuracy tell what letters you were typing. That makes me think, if I'm going to be typing this thing in, I'm putting my phone in another room. I'm unplugging the devices that are probably listening to me. It's just another thing for you to be aware of when you're trying to decide how you're going to back up your seed phrases. Again, with the seed phrases, there was another example from just this past year where the leading theory here is someone had a wallet that was hacked. As soon as they put their coins there, instantly drained. And actually, it was so instant that the theory is that multiple people were actually trying to compete to get the Bitcoin. And so Mononat, who runs mempool.space, his theory was that this is a wallet that had inadequate entropy. So what the hell is entropy, right? So it's just the amount of randomness that goes into your seed phrase. So if you're just looking down the list of all the seed phrase words and you pick ones out that you think sound cool together and you make it into a nice little story so you can try to remember it. Sometimes these are called brain wallets. Yeah, they historically have terrible entropy because they're very predictable, like what types of words that people like to put together. So if this was a wallet like that, it explains why when the attacker got the Bitcoin out of the wallet, which was 139 Bitcoin, they paid an 83.5 Bitcoin fee because it kept getting replaced by fee higher and higher and higher and higher until it finally got out.
But it could be a defensive mechanism. So one way you can defend your wallet is you can monitor the mempool, and you can, if you see somebody trying to drain out your money, you would issue another transaction, an automated transaction.
And that's what happened here.
That could be an explanation.
And then the other person can do it back to you, and then you could do it back to you, and that's how you end up with an 83.5 Bitcoin fee. Okay, so cold wallet threat vectors, right? So don't type your seed phrase into an internet-connected device. Don't take pictures of your seed phrase or even say it out loud, okay? You only have to do this once. Just do it right when you do it. Keep yourself nice and safe and secure. Create your own entropy, or at least think about doing it, right? I have links here to videos about how to do it with dice rolls or coin flips. This way you can have some confidence that you don't have like some sort of backdoor or some sort of not secure random number generator in your device.
I might be confused, but when you have a brand new treasure, it gives you 12 words. So you're not choosing it. Does that create?
The question is, should you just trust the seed phrase that your Trezor gives you? And really you can trust your Trezor, but what you're trusting is that the pseudo random number generator, which is built into the device, is actually sound, right? That there's not a bug in it, that there's not a backdoor in it, that there's not it's not like a shitty algorithm that somebody already, figured out it's not really as random as you might think. So you can always, with a Trezor, you could pick your own words and then just restore your Trezor with the words that you picked using dice rolls or coin flips. When you're getting a signing device, consider get one with a secure element. Again, there are other ways that you can protect yourself here, but you could at least consider getting one with a secure element. And I have a link here that tells you a comparison of different types of hardware wallets. Also, never buy a used hardware wallet. Okay, you don't exactly know what someone else did with this device before you got it. Right? If you're just buying a hardware wallet off of eBay, you have no idea who you're buying this thing from. And it's like a really easy attack vector for someone to send you a device that has a backdoor in it or some other flaw. And then last is multi-sig, right? If you use multi-sig, now you have multiple hardware wallets. If one of them is compromised, or if you have one of the seed phrases is taken, your whole stack is not vulnerable. Yes, that key is vulnerable, but that has nothing to do with your full wallet. And we're going to talk more about multi-sig later. All right, physical attacks. So what this little cartoon is supposed to show here is that all of this great cryptography stuff doesn't really matter if they can come into your home and start torturing you, right? His laptop's encrypt him. Hit him with a $5 wrench until he tells you the password, right? That's the origin of the $5 wrench attack. So let's talk about physical attacks. So I found a list that's maintained actively by Jameson Lopp. It's not all physical attacks that have ever happened, right? It is some subset, but it's the most comprehensive list that I believe is actively maintained. Like, he added 3 in January. Like, he's actively maintaining this list. So I thought, at least as part of this presentation, to add some value, I read them all. He has links to archived stories that where all of the information came from. So I read through all of them to come up with some interesting insights from what types, how are these physical attacks even going? Who is getting attacked? How are they being attacked? And so I'll walk you through some of the information I found. So 104 of them, which is 69%, resulted in a successful theft of some kind, okay? So what I mean by successful theft, a lot of them didn't steal Bitcoin, right? They stole cash or Bitcoin or crypto or any other asset, okay? Just a theft of some kind. But half of those people were later caught. So again, I'm going to mention this a few times. The attacker is taking a pretty big risk. Like, it might seem very scary, and it is very scary to be attacked, but it's dangerous for the attacker too. Like, anyone who thinks that it's just like, oh, easy peasy, break into someone's house and like hold a gun to their head. Like, it's not that, like, there's a huge risk that you're taking when you do that. So about half of those, 58, did result in a successful theft of either Bitcoin or crypto, right? So it's a lot easier to steal cash, right? If you go up to an in-person trade and you're the guy bringing the cash, the guy just takes the cash and runs. If you're the guy who brought the Bitcoin, well, now you got to have them type in their password, you got to get their phone, you got to get them to transfer it to you. It's a much bigger deal than just taking the cash. So about half of them were able to get Bitcoin or crypto. And in my opinion, and this is opinion only, based on some of the facts that were shared, if these people didn't have their keys on them, I would say 53 out of those 58 would have never been successful. So I said would have been prevented if they used geographically separated multisig, but that really means that you just don't have the keys on you. The attackers in most cases are just taking advantage of the fact that you, on your person, have access to your keys. So if you can separate yourself from your keys, your Bitcoin's going to be a lot safer from a physical attack. 30% involved a home invasion. So if people think that this is like something that's never going to happen, like 30% of these examples did involve someone breaking into someone's house. The people weren't home all the time, but a lot of times they were. And there was like a confrontation. So like these can be dangerous situations. And finally, there were 8 deaths, which is 5%. So people died. I mean, like I said, this is something that you should be taking seriously. And the only solace I have here, and it's not much of a solace, but only 2 of those people got away. So if there was a murder involved, 6 out of 8 were eventually caught.
Did they get the Bitcoin?
I didn't track exactly that difference. I think in some of the cases they did not. But the fact is that I talked about raising the stakes. If you're getting to the point where you're committing murder, this is like seriously raising the stakes, right? If you just get mugged in a back alley somewhere, that's one type of police investigation. But if we're talking about a murder in someone's home, for example, this is like a major police investigation that's going to be taking place, and they have a much higher success rate in catching these people. So, look, a lot of these people, maybe not a lot, but some of these were definitely high-profile targets. I talked before about making yourself a target. Like, don't make yourself a target, okay? Like, there was a few examples of like prominent YouTubers who were always just showing off their portfolios and saying all these sick gains that they had. Well, it's like now you're just opening yourself up, right? Like, don't talk about your gains that way. I noticed 3 big categories. I didn't run the numbers to say what percent, but a huge percent were in-person trades. So people literally meeting in back alleys and trading cash for Bitcoin or crypto. Sometimes of like huge amounts, like $100,000. Like, who shows up with $100,000 in cash? Some person they've never met before. Like, this is just not smart, okay? There were home or workplace invasions. And there were kidnappings. In fact, a lot of the ones that I said would not have been protected from multi-sig, like those were kidnapping scenarios where they didn't capture you, the Bitcoin holder. They captured someone else. So now they're just like, I'll let them go if you send me what you got. That's like a whole different scenario. And it's something, again, it's scary to think about, but it can happen, and it has happened. Interesting, this is just a side note, but a lot of these people that got their coins stolen, a lot of them were on an exchange. Like, having them on an exchange or off an exchange didn't really matter. They're just like, I don't care. Type in your password or give me your key or whatever it is. I don't care. Just send me the Bitcoin. So it didn't really matter if it was self-custody or on an exchange. And then again, I've already mentioned this, but overall, half of these 55%, so more than half, were eventually caught. So you're taking a big risk. If you're going to attack a Bitcoiner, like if all the people I know who I would want to attack, like Bitcoiners are not high on my list, right? Like, especially, like I said at the beginning, right? Even as I went down this rabbit hole, it was from a firearms safety course. Like, Bitcoiners are going to be protected. Like, that's what we do. So if you're not protecting yourself, then you're not protecting your keys. So I liked this quote. This is another Jameson Lopp quote. The first rule of Bitcoin is always talk about Bitcoin, right? That's why we're here. The second rule of Bitcoin is never talk about your Bitcoin, right? Don't talk about your stack. Like, nobody is going to be that impressed, okay? Like, it's not worth it. Don't talk about how much Bitcoin you have. If you have your Bitcoin on your phone, use a PIN or a password. Biometrics are usernames, not passwords. I forget who said that, but it's totally true. I mean, a couple of the cases were like Tinder dates that didn't go so well, that were clearly targeted. And, they'd get roofied or something, and they just stick their thumb on their phone and unlock it. You don't even have to be awake. So think about using a PIN or a password. Keep your hardware wallets and seed phrases in separate safe locations. I bring that up at least one of the cases. A guy got home, his house had been robbed. They took his whole safe. Whole safe was gone. He had his hardware wallet inside. He starts freaking out. But most likely the thief didn't even know what it was or how to access it. But the important part is he still had his seed phrase. So he restored his wallet, transferred it to somewhere safe. Coins, totally fine. Hardware wallet stolen, no problem. And then use physical security and home security best practices, okay? This is the same as any other break-in. Like, you're always vulnerable to your house being broken into. Like, just be careful. We're all Bitcoiners. Who knows how many people know that we're Bitcoiners? If you have registered with an exchange, who knows who your data has been linked to? If you've bought a hardware wallet, who knows how many people know that now they know your name and your address? Like, just be aware of your situation at home. I added this slide based on the first time I gave this presentation. I got two really good suggestions that I didn't include the first time. The Cold Card, at least, and maybe some other hardware wallets, offer options for duress pins or trick pins. So you can set up a separate pin, and if you type in the secondary pin, you get a whole separate wallet. So you can put some plausible deniability amount of Bitcoin there, and if you are under duress, type in the other pin, okay, they get 1% of your stack. Fine. But if that's what gets them to leave, then that's what gets them to leave. Somebody already mentioned passphrases. There's other interesting things you can do with passphrases. You don't have to use the same passphrase. So if you have multiple passphrases, it actually loads whole separate wallets. A passphrase changes the private key fundamentally. So if you have multiple passphrases, you can do the same thing with a trick pin you can do with a passphrase. And then finally, geographically separated keys. If you're using multi-sig, you can keep keys in completely separate locations. And that's what we're going to talk about next. So let's talk about multi-sig. So one of the whole reasons why I ended up putting this presentation together was to convince some of the people that go to my meetup that multi-sig is not as scary as you might think. Okay, I've heard a lot of feedback that it's just too complicated. But there's a lot of benefits that come with multi-sig as well. You have multiple offline keys, right? So all of those cold wallet threat vectors that we talked about, now you got to multiply that by 3 or by 2. It depends on your situation. But even if you hacked all the keys, if you don't have the configuration file, you don't have the multi-sig setup. So you still don't get access to the wallet. You can completely lose a key. I had some other backup slides here about some really funny stories, about people losing keys accidentally. There's been tons of examples of people losing their keys. You're protected from that if you have multi-sig, right? You can lose a key and still have access to your Bitcoin. And then again, keys can be geographically distributed, right? So attacker comes into your home. If you only have one key, you cannot get access to your Bitcoin. You just can't. Like, it's physically impossible. You're like, I hope you're ready for a field trip, right? And it's like a lot of the stories about even kidnappings or people being in their homes broken into, like some people like it's just escaped in general. Like there's a lot of ways, a lot of things can start going really wrong really fast as you start asking attackers to keep track of people in all these different locations. It falls apart really quickly. So again, geographically separated keys does offer a different level of protection from physical attacks. But there are definitely trade-offs, right? The people who say multi-sig is more complicated, they're not wrong. It is more complicated. My question is how much more? And what are the trade-offs, right? There are benefits that come with it, and there are challenges that come with it. So some of the trade-offs, right? Now you have, let's say you have a 2 of 3. Now you have 3 hardware wallets and 3 seed phrases. That's 6 things you have to find secure, safe places for. For some, that's a big ask for some people. Like, not everybody has, like, I don't know, their brother-in-law's house is safe, and maybe their parents' house and a safety deposit box. That's still only 3. Now I got 3 seed phrases to find a place for. So you bury one in the backyard. Like, not everybody has all these options available. So it is a real challenge. You also, in addition to your 6 things, right, your 3 hardware wallets and your 3 seed phrases, you also have to keep track of your wallet configuration file. And then your keys, if they're geographically separated, they can be hard to reach, which can have its own challenges. And I'm not going to lie, I mean, it is more complicated to restore it. So I don't have hard and fast answers, but there are some good practices, right? Some best practices. So keeping track of all your keys. Like, make a map. Like, you need to write this stuff down. Like, as much as you think you're going to remember where all 6 things are, like, you're definitely going to forget. Even if you don't forget, if something happens to you, somebody else is going to need to figure out where all these things are. So I think it's definitely a good practice. Like, you need to write this stuff down, okay? Then it becomes a challenge of how do you keep that safe? So one of the things I like to say, and again, maybe this works for you, maybe not, but something like LastPass, they do have emergency access features that can act like a dead man switch, right? Where in the case of an emergency, you can give someone else permission to get access to your encrypted files. Now, you'd have to give permission or deny permission, but it is an option, and it may work for you. You could also consider trusted key holders like Unchained or Casa, or also leverage friends and family that you trust. Because again, it's just one key. It's not giving them access to your Bitcoin.
Are you saying, so for LastPass, you put your map in there?
That's what I would suggest.
Once the map comes out, then you have to smooth out the 6 locations or whatever.
Right, and you only have to say, you can just say whatever you need to say, right? It doesn't have to be a map for anybody. I'm not saying put geographic coordinates on it, but something that if it's,
your key phrase.
That's right, not your seed phrase. It's just your map to where things are located. How do you keep your configuration file safe? So, configuration files are not seed phrases. If somebody gets your configuration file, they do not get your Bitcoin. What they do get is details about how your wallet was assembled. So you get your extended public keys from each of the 3 wallets. Let's say it's a 2 of 3. You'll get the 3 XPubs, and you'll get the derivation path. They'll also be able to see all your transactions and how much Bitcoin you have. These are problematic, but they do not get access to your wallet. So I tend to recommend, and again, everyone's situation is different, so I'm not saying this is like going to be for you, but I would just encrypt it, put it in an encrypted file using something like Veracrypt, encrypt it. Now you can keep it very safe and secure and put it on the cloud, right? Put it on like the Apple Cloud Service or Google Drive or anywhere else, or put it on a SD card and put it in your safety deposit box.
But you would put it on the cloud because it's encrypted?
Because it's encrypted.
Just the config file, not other things.
Not the seed phrase. Never the seed phrase.
Is Unchained and Casa holding your configuration guide?
Yes.
So you're outsourcing it to them?
You can download it for yourself, but they also have a copy. Okay, if your keys are too hard to reach, I think that's a feature, not a bug, right? That's why if you want your Bitcoin to be very easy for you to spend very quickly, don't put it in deep cold storage. You probably don't need your entire stack available to you in like one block, right? If you need a day to gather up all the keys, that's probably fine. If you need to wait till the banking hours to go get your safety deposit box, that's probably fine, right? If you're only moving these keys once every few years, this shouldn't be that big of a deal. And if it is a big deal, put some of your Bitcoin somewhere else that's easier to get to. Just a quick note, you do have to update these things every once in a while. Like bit rot is real. Like these hardware devices, if you plan on putting it in a time capsule, not to come back to it for 20 years, don't plan on it working. It's probably not going to work. So you do need to have access to these things every once in a while, whether it's for firmware updates or even just to make sure the thing still turns on. And then if it doesn't, now you know that you're just lost one layer of your backups. So maybe time to replace that wallet. But again, as long as you have your seed phrases backed up, your multi-sig is still safe. And it is more complicated. What I would say back is just anything you do with Bitcoin is going to be more complicated than like owning stocks and bonds or keeping all your money under your mattress, right? We're only here because this is more complicated. Like everything about what we do is more complicated. So if you think multi-sig is more complicated, I would say maybe you just haven't found the time yet to figure it out. I don't think you should use it if you're not ready. But I'm saying that if you want to learn how to use it, it's really not as hard as you might think. So I'm going to take a minute to just shill a class that I'm starting. It's an in-person classroom course. I've already held one. I'm calling it Bitcoin Classroom. Our first class offering is, I have 2 different levels. It's a multi-sig 101 and a 201 class. And you can come to the class. If you take the 101 class, you're going to learn how to set up, you're going to get your hands on a Ledger Nano S, a Trezor 1, and a Cold Card MK4, and you get to play around with them, right? You get to figure out the controls, set up the device, figure out, do I want to buy one of these or do I not want to buy one of these? Then we'll set them all up, we'll back up the seed phrases, and we'll build a multi-sig wallet in Sparrow. This is perfect for beginners. In our first class, we had people that had never self-custodied Bitcoin in any way, and they walked out of the class with a functional multi-sig. And again, you don't actually walk out with a working one. It's just for classroom use because we're in public. This is not a safe place to set up a wallet, but it does give you practice. And if you've already used multi-sig, or you feel like you're comfortable with the devices already, think about the 201 class, where now we actually start breaking it. Right? What happens if you lose your config file? Right? How can you rebuild it? We'll restore it in Sparrow, but then what if Sparrow's not there anymore? Right? What if it gets taken down off of GitHub? Okay, we'll restore it in Nunchuck. Like, let's start using multiple of these wallets. Then we'll even restore it in Nunchuck if you lost all your hardware wallets and all you have left are your 2 seed phrases, you can still restore it. It's actually even easier to restore it. So we go through a classroom exercise for that. And then I actually walk you through showing you how to use VeraCrypt, how to securely encrypt some of these sensitive files. So if you're interested, I am going to be offering a class out in Eastern Mass. Again, I'm Western Mass based, but I'm going to be offering a class in Watertown. I haven't picked the date yet. This is a QR code that'll link you to a survey. I also have some flyers if you want to take one with you or just scan the QR code. If you're interested, just fill out the survey. Or even if you're not interested, fill out the survey and let me know why not. There's like a recommendation section. And if you are interested, you can signal I'm available for this certain day or not. Or you can suggest another topic or another location or whatever. It is $75. The reason for that is because I bought the laptops, the hardware wallets for in-class use, and this is to try to get me back to zero. So again, like a lot of this, I'm still doing this mostly volunteer-based, but there is a little fee for covering the upfront cost.
Is one class one date, or is it one class 3 consecutive dates?
If I have enough interest, I'll do 3 consecutive. But, oh, I'm sorry, one class is 1 day. It's 3-hour class. And I can do either the 101 or the 201. Either one.
Reed, I'll have all the information of the MassAdoption Twitter. So if you guys don't get this,
great. And that's pretty much it for me. This is the slide I promised at the beginning with 1 million links. This is intended to be a rabbit hole. I encourage you, these slides will be made available. Go through the slides again, click on the links, learn more, figure out what were all those crazy physical attack stories. There were some good stories in there. But yeah, this is meant to be to encourage you to go down the rabbit hole. So thank you very much.